Um, Dear friends and colleagues, I'm very happy to share with you as a practitioner share with you my experience as a practitioner to promote religion and rule of law in China. I'm not a researcher, so I just try to share my experiences. China is an atheist ideology-dominated country. However, after decades of development, religion not only exists in China, it is growing. In 2005, based on an empirical investigation, one scholar argued that there were at least 300 million religious believers in China. Religion is deeply rooted at the community level of Chinese society and are active across the country. In the early 1950s, the Chinese government established a system for dealing with religious issues. The religious regulatory organs of the government at all levels used administrative review and approval to systematically control all matters related to religion. The procedures and means of control did not need authorization from the legislature and were not monitored or checked by other authorities. With reform and opening, social structure have experienced tremendous changes. Religion revived and grew. Gradually, the regulatory system of religion has become ineffective. Here are some examples. There were numerous religious groups outside of the so-called patriotic system that are not recognized and registered by the state, but claim nearly 100 million followers. The Protestant house churches and the Roman Catholic underground churches. In Buddhism and Taoism, the internal management is extremely chaotic. Temples have had messy internal finances, and so-called hired monks and rented temples use Buddhism venues to make profits. In some places, religion is used as a means to enhance local economy. The problems in Islam and Tibetan Buddhism are even more complicated and intertwined with ethnic conflicts and thus are elevated to the degree of affecting social stability. How to treat the religions such as Orthodox, Judaism, Mormonism, Baha'i, etc., and folk religions such as Goddess Mazu that are not part of the state-recognized 5 major religions. For a long time, the government has not been able to respond to this question well. If the old rule of man system is ineffective, how should it be reformed? In fact, along with the Communist Party's own transformation from a revolutionary party to a ruling party, the whole society has entered the transition process since 1978 after the Great Revolution. Rule of law has become the inevitable choice of the CPC to obtain legitimacy. Since the 1980s, while constructing a socialist legal system, China has quietly begun to explore the rule of law for religion. In 1982, the Chinese Communist Party Central Committee promulgated document number 18, clearly proposing the enactment of a practical and operable law of religion according to legal procedures at a proper time. In 1987, the Religious Affairs Bureau, RAB, of the State Council established a group for the enactment of a law of religion. And finally, in 2004, the State Council promulgated the Regulations on Religious Affairs, which were the first comprehensive set of administrative regulations on religious issues in China. However, it is not an authoritative basic law passed by the National People's Congress. And this practice runs against the basic requirement of the principle of reservation for legal stipulation. In fact, after 10 years, this document still has not won the recognition from the religious masses. Many stipulations in the Regulations on Religious Affairs are either unenforceable or are clearly violated. In some areas, it even falls into the trap of regularly relying on the police department to use force to maintain the local religious structure. More serious problems also exist at the constitutional level. In the Constitution, there are stipulations that discriminate against religion, obviously. It does not clearly stipulate the separation of church and state, and the Constitution is not judicialized, therefore cannot become a trial basis. If we review the process in the past 30 years, we can see that little progress has been made. It is indeed difficult to explore the rule of law for religion within a closed-door system. Without the extensive participation from religious believers, the academia, and the public. In the above background, since 1999, my organization, Push Institute, started the non-governmental efforts of promoting religion and rule of law. We are the first and only private think tank focusing on the study of religion and state relationship and religious legislation. We work mainly in the following 5 aspects. Firstly, criticizing the old religious regulatory system and making religion and rule of law a public topic. In 2002, we held a symposium on religion and politics in Beijing, with experts and scholars openly discussing church-state relations in China. It is the first time for a non-governmental organization to initiate a public discussion on church-state relations and criticism on current regulatory system in Chinese history. Since then, we have held national and international seminars on religion and rule of law each year, inviting representatives from government departments, religious organizations, and the academia to dialogue on the shortcomings of the system. This seminar series of religion and rule of law, breaking the forbidden discussion of religious policies by the public, turning the bankruptcy of the old religious regulatory system into a common topic. And when, in 2004, the Regulations on Religious Affairs enacted, we organized special discussion on its articles and gave specific analysis and criticism. In order to find out real problems in the implementation of the religious policies at grassroots level, we have conducted a national survey of church-state relations and harmonious society in 30 carefully chosen counties in the year 2007 and 2008. It's a miracle that an NGO could do such a sensitive investigation, which provide important basis for our later religious legislation efforts. Secondly, enlightenment of religion and rule of law in the whole society. 10 years ago, the Pushi social science website Chinese version was launched, and 3 years ago, the English version was launched. This website has collected all academic articles on religion and rule of law published domestically and become an important source of information for research. Currently, it has 22 columns, updated weekly, with frequent visitors from all over the country, even outside the country. Many people are amazed at its existence and regard it as a weathercock for the central government's religious policy. On very rare occasions when the website was temporarily inaccessible because of technical problems, and we could receive phone calls and emails asking if we were shut down by the government. To address the lack of publication on religion and rule of law, from the year 2011, we worked with the several leading legal academic publishers to import and publish 20 academic works, which have formed a series called Western Law and Religion Publication Series. And on August 1st, 2014, this year, we published the Religion and Rule of Law Journal, which is the first legitimate academic journal devoted to promoting religion and rule of law and distributed all over the country. There will be 4 issues each year, and at the current stage, we're going to distribute it to relevant universities, research institutions, researchers, important religious organizations, and religious leaders, as well as some grassroots religious affairs administrations for free. Thirdly, cultivation of the research field of religion and rule of law within law schools. In the United States and Europe, the study of religion and rule of law is a mature discipline. However, in China, 10 years ago, very few legal experts understood the relationship between religion and rule of law. Therefore, we decided to establish partnerships with leading law schools in China. We invited many law schools to co-host the annual seminars on religion and rule of law mentioned earlier, including these law schools including Peking University, China University of Political Science and Law, Southwest University of Political Science and Law, China University of Normal Nationalities, Shantou University, Communication University of China, and Beijing Foreign Studies University, etc. They are all our partners, yeah. And Professor Liu Peng, my director, has also been invited to give lectures in various law schools, including the Law Institute of the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, Tsinghua University, Renmin University, Shandong University, and other famous law schools. And many important figures in the law study field have attended our discussions, including Professor Guo Daohui, who is known as one of the 3 seniors promoting rule of law in China, and including 2 deputy chairmen of the Chinese Constitutional Law Society, Professor Zhang Qianfan of Peking University, Professor Tong Zhiwei of Fudan University, and also including the civil law expert, Professor Liu Kaixiang of Peking University. Here, I want to especially mention the Religion and Rule of Law Certificate Program. Since 2010, cooperated with Peking University Law School, we have conducted a 2-week certificate programs for 5 consecutive years. We invited top international scholars and designed a training course on religious freedom and rule of law in accordance with international standards. The program is mainly targeted at young scholars in major law schools, as well as a small number of government officials and religious leaders. We recruited 60 students each year, and now we have nearly 300 alumni across the country. They have formed a nationwide research network, remaining relatively closed, continuing to participate in our research activities. We also chose excellent scholars and sent them to the United States for short-term research. Some of them even tried to set up courses in their own schools. A couple of young scholars also set up their own Christian religion and law team. We believe that these alumni will become the vanguard of religion and rule of law in China. Ten years after we started our work lonely, 2 universities have started to set up their own religion and law research center doing similar research. They are Renmin University of China and the China University of Political Science and Law. Fourthly, calling for the amendment of Article 36 of the Constitution. In the famous Amending Constitution Conference in Qingdao in June 2004, Professor Liu Peng publicly proposed amendment to Article 36 and suggested Article 36 should be amended to read as follows: The citizens of the People's Republic of China enjoy religious freedom and the freedom to practice their belief. The state implements the separation of religion and state. Such a provision would not only get rid of the unscientific the discrimination in Article 36, but also confirm that China is a country that implements the separation of church and state. He made such proposals in various occasions later. And this proposition has been echoed by the famous jurist, former president of China University of Political Science and Law, Professor Jiang Ping. Professor Jiang believes that the stipulation that discriminates religion is one of the many heavy wounds in the Chinese Constitution. Fifthly, drafting religious law of the People's Republic of China. After 10 years of advocating and preparation, we finished the Religious Law of the People's Republic of China civil proposed draft in the year 2013. This is an application of citizens' legislative right conferred by the Constitution. It is a substantial effort to really institutionalize the constitutional rights, to establish the principle of church-state separation, to limit government power, and to protect the freedom of religion and belief. Since the second half of last year, we have consulted with all walks of life. Now we are modifying the draft and writing legislative reasons. We hope to release it to the public at an appropriate time. It will cause great concern from all stakeholders, bring intense public debate, experience a long game stage, and finally promote the legislative process of the government. With 15 years' efforts, we have successfully introduced the concept of religion and rule of law to the academia, government officials, and religious groups, and tried our best to promote consensus on religion and rule of law in society. We believe that through the path of rule of law, religious freedom could be institutionalized and protected. Religion could legally enter into the public domain. To achieve active participation in social life and to play an active role in civil society, to help break monopoly in faith and belief, and to realize the moral reconstruction of Chinese society. Coincidentally, today, literally today, the fourth plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee started in Beijing. To examine major issues comprehensively promoting rule of law, it is very exciting, isn't it? You can expect the communique in 4 days. Though we are not so optimistic that religious legislation be mentioned in this historical meeting, we do have confidence that as long as China goes in this direction, rule of law will be realized on religion one day. And it will not only guarantee freedom of religion and belief, but also greatly promote free expression and association, thus promote the development of civil society. That's my speech. Thank you.